Chapter 2072. Mother of Flames. Nora's expression changed. A translucent wind blade grew larger and larger in the depths of her pupils. She used both her arms to cast Flame Strike. The ground in front of her was covered in flames, but the blade was not moving forward. It was light and agile. It was like a leaf being blown away by a strong wind. It swayed slightly, but in the next moment, it broke through the sea of flames and arrived in front of her. Nora's other 4 weapons were useless. She screamed and rolled to the side. The translucent blade crossed her body and left a line of blood on her left middle arm. A second later, she was horrified to find that her arm had almost been completely cut off. For the first time in 25,000 years, a great pain attacked her. What is this? Nora screamed and turned to look at the white-haired female elf that passed by her. It's called, Conqueror of the Wind God's Throne. Stopping, the third sister of the Windrunner family, Sasha, revealed a mocking smile. As the name suggested, this blade was made of wind elements. It was made from the remains of the previous Wind Lord, Al-Akir. Part of it was used to fill in the Windseeker's sword for Gavin Rad, and the other part was given to Sasha to create this divine weapon that did not exist in history. Sasha was not supposed to be the main tank, but it seemed that the composition of the harem was a little uneven. On the other side, Hoof waved, happy flames, and charged towards Mother of the Night, Asura. Hoof Iral had become a hoof. I'll chop 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 chop. In the past, Hoof could not do anything. She was either the healer or the vanguard with a small shield and hammer, always having to take care of her teammates. This time, with Iona's support, almost every hero in the Alliance had unlimited regenerative abilities. Hoof waved the divine weapon, Great Axe, and immediately used Crusader Strike. The holy golden light almost blinded Asura's eyes. Asura was about to go crazy. Since when did a little holy knight dare to talk back to her? Your holy light is not worth mentioning. Is that so? Osala had obviously underestimated Hoof, Valen's disciple. Or rather, Hoof's combat strength had always been underestimated in the Alliance. First of all, Duze did not want his harem to be the vanguard. Second, there were too many powerful people in the Holy Knights. The muscular men of the 4 Silver Saints would definitely be the first to rush to the front. Basically, there was no chance for the Hoof to appear. Actually, the attack power of the hooves was not any weaker than the 4 Silver Saints. Osala was at a disadvantage the moment they met. The 3 shadow-throwing daggers she threw out were actually melted by the flames of the Hoof's divine weapon battle-axe in midair. Ursula gritted her teeth and swung her 2 great swords at the same time, barely blocking the Hoof's axe. However, just as Asura's uppermost pair of arms made a hand gesture to coordinate with the casting of Shadow Arrow, an extremely sharp arrow was shot. He bent his left leg and dodged to the side. Only then did he feel the wind elemental arrow brush past his cheek. The first arrow disappeared, and the next one came immediately. It was still a wind arrow, and it still had that unstoppable and terrifying feeling. Osala's heart was filled with fear as she retreated. She was not afraid of ordinary physical and elemental attacks, but the wind arrow contained some kind of god-level power that shocked her. Only then did she see the golden-haired female elf who shot the arrow. The strong wind around her caused her beautiful blonde hair to flutter in the air. However, this did not obstruct her vision, allowing her to focus on shooting arrow after arrow. In particular, the hunting bow in her hand, which looked like a flapping eagle, emitted a powerful energy wave that made her heart throb like never before. Alarm bells rang. Sasdora Windrunner's legacy. Not long after the establishment of the elven kingdom of Kuel Salis, a skilled craftsman took a branch from the mother tree in the Long Song forest and carved it into Sasdora. Since then, it had been the Windrunner family's proud heirloom. This bough was held by the eldest child of each generation of the Windrunner family. This generation's holder was of course, Aurelia. However, the power of a divine artifact was not infinite. In the war with the trolls 2,800 years ago, the power of this divine artifact Bao was almost exhausted. Since then, it had been placed in the secret sacred place of the Windrunner family, absorbing the natural energy of the Long Song forest and slowly recovering. Originally, the next time it could recover its power would be 1,000 years later. However, with the help of the Titans of the Pantheon Temple and the permission granted by the Azeroth Star Soul, this Bao could see the light of day earlier. Aurelia's archery was not that simple. Every arrow shot seemed to travel through space and could be shot from any direction around Osala. However, this kind of highly concentrated divine arrow could open a big hole in her body with each arrow. The matriarch had never been a person with thick skin. This kind of fast but destructive fighting style was really asking for one's life. Osala felt like she was going crazy. How could there be such archery in this world? Every arrow was extremely strange and devoid of logic. But the wind arrow did not reason with Osara. It suddenly appeared, and Osara had to use all her strength to dodge sideways. She rolled on the ground without a care for her image to avoid the arrow aimed at her heart. Even so, her lower right arm was still shot and exploded. Ah! Osala let out a scream. Suraya, are you still not done? The two matriarchs had previously made a lot of threats, but they had suffered such a big loss in a single exchange. It was simply infuriating. However, the Witches of Destruction was not only the Burning Legion's command center. The room they were in had another important function. This was the prison that imprisoned the Titans of the Pantheon Temple. 25,000 years ago, Chief Sa had betrayed them and destroyed the Pantheon Temple. All the Titans, including Amon, Sir, were killed. It was not entirely correct to say that the Titans were dead, because the Titans themselves were very special existences. The body and the soul could be two different things. Some of the souls ran away. They drove a huge spaceship called the Pantheon and hid in a hidden space crevice in a corner of the universe. The Titans' corpses and some of their remnant souls were imprisoned by Sargeras. After going through an extremely evil ritual, the Titans, who had shrunk in size after refinement, became pitiful prisoners. Other than helping kill, Jaden command the entire Burning Legion, the four matriarchs would usually happily play S&M games with the Titans, using endless pain to torture these Titans, finally forcing them to fall and form a dark pantheon. Chapter 2073. The war between the Burning Legion and Azeroth had entered its final stage. In order to destroy planet Azeroth, kill Jaden alone was no longer enough. Sargeras, the army's highest combat power, had to enter the battlefield. Sargeras' resurrection was in its final stage. If Sargeras resurrected first, with his omnipotent abilities, he might be able to rush back and block Duque and the others at the Burning Throne. On the other hand, Duque and the others had already fought their way to the end of the Burning Throne, facing the four matriarchs and two fallen titans. For 25,000 years, due to the lack of souls and bodies, the Pantheon couldn't be activated normally at all. It had become a name with no substance. Once the Allied forces successfully raided planet Argus and rescued all the imprisoned Titan souls and bodies, the Pantheon's combat power would undergo a fundamental change. From providing indirect assistance, they would become the strongest combat power that could directly participate in the battle. Even if it was a shrunken version of their bodies, if Amon, Thul and the others could use half of their combat power, they would be able to take care of Sargeras, who had forcibly resurrected on Azeroth with his remnant soul and clone corpses. This was undoubtedly a mutual destruction. Let's see whose home would collapse first. Now, no one could say for sure who would have the upper hand. In the tomb of Sargeras on planet Azeroth, Jaden couldn't take it anymore. Even a brave woman was afraid of taking turns. Moreover, the ones taking turns weren't the 25-foot men in the game, but a group of super powerful people who were not much weaker than him. Almost all of them had the template of a boss. Among them, they were either Titan guardians or demigods. Even the mere mortals in the eyes of the eggs were mostly veterans who had experienced the 20-year war and killed a bunch of demigods and great demons. The Gemini twins, who had been completely taken advantage of by Duque and Eridar, realized in despair that once they made a move, they wouldn't reveal any of their moves. The group of mortal powerhouses had already made their moves. Then, the Titan Guardians rushed forward to fight. Come on. A head-on confrontation. Those who didn't fight head-on were idiots without balls. Whether it was Odin, Thorim, or Hodier, they were all the same. Unfortunately, Jaden could not bypass these big guys and kill Freya, who kept healing from behind. As the portal closed, the Void Dukes around him fell one by one, and Jaden's condition worsened. His injuries continued to accumulate, and he had less and less time to cast spells. However, the silent and instantaneous shadow magic was not powerful enough to kill these Titan Guardians. As soon as they finished vomiting blood, Freya's healing spell healed them. He had healed himself right in front of him, allowing him to see his wounds healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. What a ruckus! How could they fight like this? Without a choice, Jaden, who was unwilling to die just like that, finally used his last trump card. He secretly extracted mana from the mana pool that had been used to revive Sargeras to replenish himself. I'm doing this for the resurrection of our great leader. If I die, no one will protect Master Sargeras while he's casting the spell. As a fallen titan, he's so strong. It doesn't matter if he loses some magic power. Jaden was a sinister guy. He was not a brute like Archimonde. Between self-preservation and loyalty, he quickly made his choice. It looked like Jaden was on steroids, or maybe it was the final radiance of the setting sun. He suddenly became 2 levels stronger. All kinds of big moves were thrown out as if they were free, and for a moment, the allied forces were in chaos. On the Burning Throne side, while Duque's harem was beating up the matriarchs, Duque and the others at the front finally met the fallen Titanogramma. As soon as they entered the hall, an impassioned voice that was as hot as flames came crashing down on them. Just the fire element contained in the voice alone was enough to turn a normal low-level Void Duke into charcoal. Stop! Intruder! Other than the great Master Sargeras, no one is allowed to enter here. Looking up, they saw a 100-meter-tall flame giant. The outline of every muscle on its dark, stony body was separated by blazing lines of flames. The extremely heavy metal armor only covered less than half of its body. Its chest, thighs, and upper arms were not armored. The armor was more like a decoration. The huge winged helmet was shaped like a bull's horn. In the T-shaped front of the helmet, one could see a pair of flaming eyes that shone with golden light. When it stepped forward, it felt like the earth was shaking. What a fallen titan! How majestic! However, it was only majestic. Duque looked down on this guy. A fallen titan that could not contact the planets and universe to obtain external power was not a true titan. It was just a giant with the appearance and abilities of a titan. It could not display its endless power. Ha! The once noble titan of the Pantheon has fallen to become a watchdog for enemies and traitors. And out of so many titans, only you submitted. This is embarrassing, Duque complained through the magic communication in the harem. Beside him, Queen Shi and Vashj both smiled slightly. Duque turned his head. Illidan, can you handle this guy? Who do you think I am? Illidan raised his chin arrogantly. He felt like an egg that was being looked down upon, and his fighting spirit was high. He pulled out the famous dual blades of Azzinoth from behind him, entered his demon form in one breath, and charged straight at Illidan. In terms of body size, the demonized Illidan was at least 5 meters tall. To the Night Elves, he was already a giant. Unfortunately, in front of Agrima, he was a bug. Agrima instinctively disliked Illidan. Annoying and lowly demon. Go to hell. With a thunderous roar, Agrima raised his divine two-handed sword, Tesseract, and slashed down. When the burning greatsword fell, it gave people the feeling that a flaming mountain was collapsing. The pressure of the mountain and the flames were shocking. Illidan dodged. Agrima was not slow, but Illidan was faster. With a sidestep, he passed by the side of the sword. Hiss, as he passed by, Agrima's neck had a terrifying wound that was 2 meters wide. Green flames continued to burn on the wound, and it seemed out of place compared to the red flames that surrounded Agrima's body. Duque looked at it for a while. Let's go. Duque did not care if Illidan could defeat Agrima or not. As long as Illidan could not let Agrima leave his position and cause trouble while Duque and the others were dealing with Argus, it would be a great achievement. Chapter 2074. The corridor, which was already as wide as a football field, began to disassemble itself. The Eridar clan's unimaginable mechanism made a loud, clatter, sound, and then Duque and the others saw the sky. The corridor split into 2 halves in the middle. Apart from the small circular area where Duque and the others were standing, the surrounding 2 meter by 2 meter large square bricks were collapsing. Soon after, more colorful, almost glazed floor tiles rose from the depths of the ground, along with the large metallic flat ground. A trap? Queen Siko tilted her head, her smile a little cold. No. In front of a demigod whose body can be elementalized and whose life is connected to the entire planet, traps are nothing. Vashj smiled. Duque did not speak. He just stood there proudly and struck a pose. Because what was to come would eventually come. The other party was more anxious than they were. Argus the Silent Destroyer had arrived. With an aura that could split the heavens and earth apart. Almost every step he took caused the entire ground to tremble. Argus, who was guarding Shaman's lair, could have been a quiet Titan handsome man, waiting for challengers at the final checkpoint to deliver themselves to him. Unfortunately, Duque's special strategy of stealing the planet's elementals had forced Argus to be restless. Duque did not want to split his forces and let his harem deal with the matriarchs. Of course, he hoped that all the bosses would stay in their own territory and be defeated one by one. The Burning Legion was no fool. If Duque had not split his forces just now, it was very likely that everyone would be stuck at the destruction which Guild's home ground for the final battle. Duque led his men in a frenzy and managed to separate the matriarchs, Agrima and Argus. However, the Argus in front of him was too huge. He was at least 1,000 meters tall. Duque was displeased. Yo, I don't like to look up to other beings. All the big guys who dared to stand in front of me as enemies ended up lying on the ground. You will not be an exception, Duque said calmly. You. Argus the Silent Destroyer had wanted to curse angrily, but his expression suddenly changed. The surrounding elements changed. Countless elemental vortexes of various sizes suddenly appeared around his gigantic body. What happened next was enough to make a person with trypophobia feel numb and scream. Because every vortex seemed to have become Brother Octopus' suction cup, unscrupulously absorbing elements from Argus' body. Countless beautiful arcs of light streaked across the empty space that was about to become a battlefield. Elemental radiance intertwined with each other and flew outwards. The flickering radiance outlined impressionistic oil paintings on the ground. Argus instinctively rejected the elemental extraction. Rays of light crisscrossed in midair, and the Titan runes combined to form a small magical formation, producing lines of law. These lines of law were like countless spear soldiers facing off against each other, and as they clashed, they erupted with ear-piercing explosions and spatial turbulence. A newly born earth elemental creature accidentally bumped into these intersecting cracks, and like a firework exploding, it was smashed into pieces in the blink of an eye. Bastard, Argus cursed. It was bad enough that Duque had pulled the 4 elemental lords over to cut off his connection with this planet. Duque actually wanted to forcibly extract elements from his body in front of him? The existence of all matter in Azeroth was based on the 4 elements. For the Titans, the 4 elements were an important part of their gigantic bodies. Wasn't extracting elements from a Titan the same as cuckolding him in front of his face? It was only natural that Argus the Terminator felt angry. He immediately realized that if he continued to maintain such a huge body, based on the defense of his skin per unit area, he would not be able to stop Duke from robbing him of his elements. The only solution was, to become smaller. As he cursed, he activated the Titan's unique body compression spell. With his body mass unchanged, Argus shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 10 seconds, he went from a 1,000-meter-tall, towering majestic body to a 20-meter-tall, little giant. A ridiculous golden metal helmet in the shape of a mountain, a blue, noble, muscular body, and a pile of black wrist guards, belt, and leg guards. In a sense, Argus the Terminator looked like a blue-skinned version of the Spartan warrior. While his body's density increased exponentially, his magic defense also reached an astonishing level. But Duque said, "Yes. That's good. Damn, this tone is clearly lecturing his own grandson." Duque's laughter made Queen Sylvanas and Vashj, who were next to him, burst out laughing. Argus became smaller, but Duque unceremoniously became bigger. An elemental giant mixed with the dual elements of fire and arcane rose under Duque's feet. In less than 3 seconds, the elemental giant used its head to lift Duque to a place where Argus could see. "Tiny native god, are you underestimating the power of the Titans?" Argus shouted, raised the huge scythe in his hand that was at least 20 meters long, and slashed down. "No, I'm just underestimating a puppet that Sargeras uses as a power bank." Duque said something that outsiders couldn't understand. "Power bank? What the hell?" Duque didn't have to answer him. Argus the Terminator was not a complete Titan from the day he was born anyway. Ever since the Twisted Nether was blown up, Sargeras had been anxious to find a backup resurrection point to resurrect the demons who had died in battle in the outside world. Another key point that restricted Argus from drawing power from the planet was that the Titan power that should have belonged to Argus had been F*King taken to the demons as resurrection tokens. Of course, Duque made the most incisive use of this point. The giant scythe in Argus' hand made an incomparably standard slashing motion. The elemental giant in front of him was like a collapsing wall, and a large part of its chest was directly torn apart and turned into nothingness. But the elemental giant with a broken body didn't care, and the claws of its left hand were like 3 sharp daggers that gouged into Argus' arm. "Damn it!" Argus cursed. He had seen shamelessness, but he had never seen such shamelessness. These elements were extracted from him a moment ago, and with a program programmed by Duque, he immediately became his opponent. The elements that belonged to Duque, after being processed by Titan magic, were given special destructive power. Even the Titans couldn't withstand this power with their extraordinarily tough skin. Argus raised his left hand and unleashed the Wrath of Pain. The attack, which contained a large amount of evil energy and the will of pain, made Duque's skin feel like it was being cut by a knife as soon as it was released. This was the venting of the resentment of being tortured by Sargeras during the Terminator's growth. Chapter 2075. Violent anger was infused into the move, and even though Duque and the others had blocked Argus's dark energy impact, the mental impact still slightly injured their souls. Queen Sylvanas was a little annoyed. Circles of lightning formed on her long golden eyebrows, and the hot breath she exhaled formed a breeze that blended into the chaotic elemental turbulence around her in a blink of an eye. In less than 3 seconds, the surrounding wind suddenly turned into a gale and surged violently. Then, the light of thunder lit up the sky, so bright that people could not open their eyes. The continuous bursts of thunder and lightning almost made people think that it was an earthquake-level roar, and even the earth was shaking. Large chunks of Argus' skin were charred black, but it didn't take long for his skin to turn azure blue again. It was probably the self-healing ability of his body. The stone bricks around the silent destroyer were all turned to dust, except for under his feet. The small oval area was more like a satire on Queen Sylvanas. TCH. Queen Sylvanas gritted her teeth. On the other side, Vashj had already begun to shoot. Duque grabbed Queen Sylvanas' hand. I told you, don't be impulsive. That's an existence with vitality equal to at least 1/3 of Argus's planet. Or do you think you can blow up an Azeroth planet with one blow? After so many years, although Queen Sylvanas was tough, she was never really reckless. Got it, I just want to experience the power of the Titans. On the other side, the angry Argus did not hold back. He raised the scythe of Argus high and swept it with great force. At the top of the dark blue long handle with a yellow ring was an illusory cyan scythe blade. At first glance, it looked like the entire universe was branded on the sharp surface of the blade. A simple and violent slash, with the merciless strength and the terrifying Titan's power, felt like a flash, and the scythe cut Duque's elemental giant in half. The elemental giant let out a shrill cry and suddenly stood up, its claws piercing towards Argus' neck. But Argus did not even look, and with a cold face, punched the chest of the elemental giant with his left hand, which had lost its lower body. Bang! The huge elemental giant was sent flying. That wasn't all. Argus took a big stride forward, followed closely behind the elemental giant's body, and punched its already shattered chest. Amidst a series of strange explosions, the arcane fire giant, which was a combination of both arcane and fire elements, completely exploded. The high temperature that was released from the explosion turned the area within a radius of several hundred meters into a charred hell. Even Vashj and Queen Sylvanas, who were accustomed to watching the duels between the strong, could not help but be stunned at this scene. They turned their heads and stared at Duque. Originally, Argus had more fire elements than Azeroth. An elemental giant formed from at least 20% of the planet's fire elements was definitely not weak. Before the time of Return of Legions, its strength surpassed the main body of Ragnaros, the former king of Balrog in the Land of Fire. This was not an exaggeration. It was just that this arcane fire giant was a little miserable, because the one who beat it happened to be the big boss Argus, the source of its power. Although Duque gave them his own laws and new definitions when he extracted these fire elements, things in the bones were not so easy to change. Looking at the dense, thick, and bright lines of law on the Nirvanic's left fist, what else could Duque do? He shrugged helplessly. We just need to hold Argus back, Duque emphasized again. Argus had to die. If he didn't die, the army would be invincible, and President Shaman would be unscrupulous. How to kill Argus was quite particular. Duque was an elemental god, and his control of the elements was at the peak even in the divine territory. Unfortunately, he had just been promoted, and he had no choice but to come to Argus to fight an away game. Anyone would be overjoyed to be able to fight to this point. If Duque was given enough time, he could definitely use 1,000 ways to slowly torture the poor worm Argus to death. But if he wanted to be fast, he couldn't do it alone. After all, the elements he extracted were all the elements of Argus itself, not something he brought from Azeroth. The elements were not easy to use, and when they hit the Nirvanic, the damage was greatly reduced. He was helpless. In fact, Vashj and Queen Sylvanas were similar. One used water, and the other used wind. If they couldn't make the elements they transferred imprint their deepest imprint, then the fight would always be half the result with twice the effort. In any case, this true divine battle was still earth-shattering. The aftermath of the battle quickly destroyed the terrain, and the area became full of potholes. The ground was full of potholes, and mountains would collapse at every turn, or a side hall would be blasted. Hand-to-hand combat wasn't the strength of Duque and the others, but fortunately, they had their respective summoned elemental giants. These poor giants were thrown out like softballs by Argus, the Nirvanic, time and time again, smashed and cut in half. Argus, however, couldn't do anything to three puny demigods and true gods. Against ordinary enemies, he could still control the elements in the entire space, fill it with shadow elements, and launch various ultimate moves to finish off the opponent. But Duque and the others didn't eat this at all. Because this was basically Argus insulting himself. The only difference was whose mark belonged to which group of elemental energy. At this moment in the assault battle, the situation changed subtly again. Duque's side couldn't advance in a short period of time, but if the harem group could make progress, then the battle would have a decisive change. Because once the four matriarchs were defeated, they could save most of the titans in the pantheon. Even if not all the titans could return to their peak state, they could still save the entire situation. Your efforts are destined to fail. The Burning Legion will destroy everything, the flame matriarch Nora screamed, waving her 6 arms to slash at the silver-haired little person in front of her. Sasha's expression was calm, as if she didn't hear anything around her. Her entire heart was focused on her sword. She raised her sword to the same level as her chest, and reached out with 2 hands to press on the edge of the sword. The next moment, she turned into a stream of wind again. Nora's 6 broken and heavily injured arms missed, but she still turned around sharply, and was shocked to see a long and narrow sword gleam. Impossible, Nora was shocked to realize that the sword gleam had already penetrated her defense. The next moment, she felt that the left side of her neck didn't belong to her. She saw shock in the eyes of the shadow matriarch, Tima, who was opposite her. She knew why. Most of her neck was broken. Smelly blue blood spurted out uncontrollably. Chapter 2076. Nora gritted her teeth and used her top left hand to press down on her neck, attempting to make a final struggle. But at this moment, an arrow shot over without a sound. There was only one existence present who could shoot such a sinister arrow. It was the noble elf who was so beautiful that even Nora was jealous of her. Her elegant demeanor was something that vicious matriarchs like them could not achieve even after 10,000 years of training. At this moment, as she was not suppressed by any of the matriarchs, she went all out. How terrifying could a sniper who was not harassed be? Now, she had to experience it with her own life. That arrow scared Nora out of her wits. She subconsciously used her middle left hand to block it. Unfortunately, a small part of her palm was blown off in the next instant. Before she could even scream in pain, the arrow in midair seemed to disappear. When it reappeared, it was already pressed against her temple. No! Nora's cry was filled with despair. This was the fastest arrow in the mortal world. The strongest arrow below the divine realm. With the wind elemental power activated by second sister Sylvanas, Aurelia's abilities were not at the divine realm, but she was stronger than a demigod. This arrow surpassed the imagination of all the matriarchs. The matriarchs had strong vitality. In the end, Sylvanas's core position was to be a spellcaster, not a race that charged and broke through enemy lines. Injuries would hurt, and severe injuries would kill. There was no such thing as a holy healing spell that could restore one's HP to full or resurrect on the spot with faith in Brother Spring. Nora, the mother of flames, was dead. This caused a fatal flaw in the cycle of the matriarchs. The matriarchs did not want to directly enter the battlefield. Even in battle, they would use all sorts of methods to teleport themselves to the Titan cages next door. By torturing the Titans' bodies and remnant souls, they would force the Titans to use all sorts of ultimate moves to harm the invaders. Nora's death directly increased the pressure on Fatima, who was still in the battlefield. Osala, the mother of the night, had no choice but to appear to save the situation. Suraya, the mother of the universe, was the only one left inside, still torturing the Titans. At this moment, Tyrande and Jaina arrived. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Tyrant snorted coldly and led the charge into battle. As the former high priestess of Elun and the leader of the Elven Sentinels, she was a master of both magic and martial arts. Even after Elun agreed to let her serve Duque, Elun did not deprive Tyrant of her power due to their good relationship. Elun even allowed Tyrant to continue using her, Starfall. It was just that when Tyrant and Chandris needed to use their ultimate skills at the same time, Chandris would go first. Tyrant's first move was Starfall. The huge meteor had long since begun its descent. When the meteor broke through the atmosphere and was about to touch the exterior of the burning throne, a huge teleportation portal silently opened. The place it connected to was the battlefield where the matriarchs were at. Seeing the teleportation gate that suddenly opened and the terrifying meteorite that suddenly appeared, Tima was a little dumbfounded. If he reacted any slower, he wouldn't be able to dodge it. Planet Argus was larger than Azeroth, and its gravitational acceleration was higher. Under its effects, the speed of the meteorite's descent was even faster, and the damage it caused was naturally even more terrifying. Sylvanas were never an agile race. As an adult Sylvana, Fatima was as tall as a 3-story building. She had 6 arms, but only 2 legs. Tima couldn't escape and could only take it head-on. Bang! At the moment of impact, sand and pebbles flew everywhere. It was a spectacular sight. Lifting the rock with 6 arms, failed. Then let's smash the rock with our chest. Being hit by a meteorite that was at least the size of a medium-sized tank and falling at a 60-degree angle from the ground, it was already a testament to Tima's amazing physique that she didn't turn into meat paste on the spot. In the end, she couldn't withstand the terrifying impact. With all 6 of her arms broken, Tima was sent flying with her back wide open. Of course, Duque's harem wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. Just as Tima was sent flying, she suddenly realized that she was no longer falling on flat ground, but a mountain of blades. In that instant, it was a mountain of frost blades made of god-level elemental density. Arg! The toughness of a demon's body, other than the talent of eating, was largely dependent on the dark energy in their bodies. Injecting a high density of dark energy into their body surface not only increased their strength, but also increased their defense and the regeneration of their cells. When she ate that meteorite just now, Tima's dark energy was almost depleted. Before she could recover, she was stabbed by Jaina's iceberg. That was bad enough. Unexpectedly, her original opponent, her former compatriot who wielded a blazing axe, the Drenii paladin, Iriel, seized the opportunity and leaped high into the air, slashing at her chest. Flame Joy accurately slashed at Tima's already charred chest, easily breaking at least 10 of her ribs. Holy golden flames shot out from her heart, and in the blink of an eye, Tima screamed as she walked towards death. There were only 3 bosses in the Havoc Witch Guild. The basic battle mode was 2 matriarchs coming out to cause trouble, one playing hardcore games with the Titans, and the 3 leaders taking turns to fight the players. In reality and in the game, there were a total of 4 matriarchs. Only 2 of them were on the field, and the remaining one went to torment the Titans, while the other was in charge of suppressing the Titans who were constantly resisting. After all, Duque had formed an alliance with the Pantheon beforehand, and when Duque's harem arrived, Amon, Thul and the rest immediately contacted their broken bodies and souls to start a riot. This greatly restricted the power of the matriarchs. With Nora and Tima dead, Asura and Suraya were left panicking. Asura, who had just teleported out, naturally encountered the fiercest siege, and it was the kind that could not be countered. Hoof and Sasha were blocking in front, Tyrant, Jaina, Elucia, and Aurelia were attacking wildly in the middle, and Kalia was healing at the back. Suraya, who was inside, was also in trouble. Suddenly, a huge palm grabbed Suraya's left leg. The moment the Mother of the Universe saw, raging roar, Gorgan's eyes turned from pain to clarity, she immediately realized that all three of her left arms were being grabbed by Khaz-Garoth. Dreamweaver, Noganan and, Supreme Father, Amon Thul were also there. The four Titans' main souls had obviously contacted their broken bodies and souls, and 1, 2, 3, all attacked the evil matriarchs that had tortured their broken bodies and souls for a full 25,000 years. When Tyrant and the rest quickly defeated Asura and rushed to the next room, they found that Suraya was already dead. 6 arms, 2 legs, and a head had all been forcefully torn off using different methods. Disregarding Sivala's original appearance and the blood on the ground, she really did look like a huge female stick. Chapter 2077. In any case, that scene was rather tasteless. Inside, Amon Thul slowly removed the last shackles on his body. The Father of the Gods did not care about the suppression of the four matriarchs. Over the past 25,000 years, the ones who had truly suppressed them and regained their bodies and souls were Sargeras, Kil, Jaden, Archimond, and Argus the Nirvanic. As long as these evil figures were around, even if they were temporarily freed, they would only gain a short period of freedom before being suppressed again. Amon Thul and the others would definitely not do such a thankless thing. Don't think that the Titans were so noble and did not have a temper. After being tortured for so many years, even Buddha would have a temper. The fact that they did not kill the four matriarchs and revive them before killing them again was already a testament to their moral integrity. With a light wave of his hand, Suraya and the corpses of the 3 matriarchs disappeared without a sound. They turned into dust and disappeared in the hot, turbid wind of the burning throne. Amon Thul was very careful. He had only injected a little of his soul to activate the remnant body and soul. With another wave of his hand, the battered body had already donned a set of blue robes. From the looks of it, he was once again the noble and supreme Father of the Gods. Thank you, mortal heroes. Now, the final moment has arrived. Sargeras is about to revive on planet Azeroth. We must hurry back to the Pantheon. Only then will we have enough power to stop Sargeras. Amon Thul nodded at the women in Duke's harem, a smile appearing on his face for the first time in a long time. Tyrant took a step forward. Defeating Argus the Nirvanic is also a very important part. Duke said that with his power alone, it will take a long time to defeat the Nirvanic. The Titans looked at each other, and Amon Thul spoke again. Don't worry. We will take action. Thank you very much. Tyrant led the women and bowed to the Titans. The Pantheon will remember your kindness for eternity. This was Amon Thul's promise. An opportunity to make the Pantheon Temple owe them a big favor was something that only happened once in a billion years. Once they defeated the Burning Legion, as long as the Pantheon didn't perish again, the people of Azeroth would be able to do whatever they wanted in this universe. With a wave of his hand, Amon Sur and the rest of the Titans left with the corpses. The physical departure was not a true departure. Giant humanoid figures with the silhouettes of Titans were left behind. They looked a little like the observer Duke had been dealing with, Orgolan. There were dozens of miniature stars twinkling inside the humanoid figure. It was the compressed power of the star. Unlike Orgaren, the faces of these figures were translucent. It was easy to tell if they were Amon Thul or Noganan. Let's go. Wake that good-for-nothing up, Khazgro spat. Yes. Amon Sur nodded. Another teleportation door opened beside them. This time, Aona, the life bestower, sent in an astral soul clone. The good-for-nothing that the Titans were talking about was naturally Agrama, the Avenger who had been tortured into confessing and surrendered to Sargeras. Agrama was a male Titan. During the time of the Pantheon, he had bronze skin wrapped under a golden robe. He used to be Sargeras' adjutant, filling the empty position after Sargeras left and becoming a member of the Pantheon. His duty was to fight against the Burning Legion and the corruption of the demons. Although he had never shown his emotions, he harbored a strong hatred and anger towards Sargera's betrayal. Unfortunately, emotions were very complicated. The opposite of hatred could be love. The other Titans had resisted for 25,000 years and never truly surrendered. He was the only one who surrendered. This was really awkward. Other than the Pantheon dealing with Sargeras, Agrama also had to convince him to abandon the dark side and join the light side. How? With his fists, of course. On the other side, Illidan was in a sorry state. In the original history, as the true son of light and darkness, he carried the hopes of the entire village. Oh no, he carried the hopes of the entire Night Elves if they failed to resist the Burning Legion. For 10,000 years, he lived like a villain, but he never lost his moral integrity. He was completely different from a certain Dew who had a harem all over the world under the banner of a hero. In the original story, Illidan was very strong. Although he wasn't a proud dragon, his power was at least at the peak of demigods. Unfortunately, he didn't know if Du-Mok had taken away his dream lover, but at the same time, his luck was also taken away. Illidan's pride was still off the charts, but his power couldn't keep up, and the opponents he chose were a little bad. After Avenger, Agrama fell, his power was reduced to that of a dog. The problem was that he used to be a professional demon slayer. His body was covered in flames, and ordinary people would be burned to death if they came within a kilometer of him. Illidan had a heart like the holy light, and he was a good person deep down, but his body and power were of the demon bloodline. When they fought, he was quite restrained. He and Agrama were in a state where they were almost defenseless against each other. Illidan's speed was not something that Agrama could catch up with. Almost every time Illidan flew, he could leave a deep wound on Agrama's huge body. Similarly, Illidan could only endure the damage from Agrama's aura of fire. He also had to dodge Agrama's 3 attacks. Oh my god. F*CKU. What the F*CK? Oh, no, no, no. It should be Tesseract's sword technique, the 5-hit combo. Although he did not know if this was what the Silent Avenger was saying in his heart, the 5-hit combo only had 3 moves. They were Enemy Destroyer, which had a cone-shaped area of effect, Flame Rend, which originally needed a group of people to share the damage, and Scorching Storm, which bombarded the entire area. Every move of the huge two-handed greatsword was earth-shattering. The originally flat ground of the hall was all built with high-hardness Argus bricks that were soaked with dark energy. Every stone here only needed to be slightly infused with intelligence to become a powerful Hellfire elite. Even such a solid ground was easily flipped into the air like sand on a beach. One Enemy Destroyer, and the cone-shaped area of effect that was larger than a basketball court instantly lowered the altitude by 10 meters. One Flame Rend, and the pillars that were thousands of meters away were instantly pulverized. Not to mention, Scorching Storm, that ultimate move that turned the entire hall into a purgatory. Even the demons who were said to be the most adaptable to heat and flames could not withstand it. At that moment, a few huge shadows suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall where the two were fighting. Amon Thul's avatar stood at the entrance, his eyes filled with holy light and a peerless aura. Wake up! Agrama! It's time to punish the traitor. Chapter 2078. Kill Jaden. Your little tricks are useless. You won't be able to buy us much time. Odin's loud voice shook the entire tomb. Norgannon's hands glowed with a dazzling blue light. When the mysterious Titan rune circle unfolded beneath Norgannon's feet, it quickly transformed into a special divine power that surged towards Agrama. Agrama's main soul's doppelganger immediately plunged into the corrupted, tortured, and fallen Agrama's body. Wake up! Let us face the real enemy together. After a burst of flames that resembled a volcanic eruption, Illidan suddenly realized that there was a huge teleportation door next to Agrama. Tesseract, Flaming Flare. You injected your dark energy, and I used holy light to expel it out. Agrama's body was like the sun, shooting out terrifying flames that could burn everything. That's right, because the Avengers' obsession was too strong, the matriarchs made a little cognitive distortion to make this soul think that he was guarding the Pantheon. The demons could not return to the twisting nether, but that did not mean that the demons that had entered the planet's atmosphere could not move. They opened a large number of medium and small portals, and began to gather towards the tomb of Sargeras. When Jaden injected Shadow Image into the three champions of the Alliance, the three minions that spawned unleashed Flame of Fear, as soon as they appeared, attempting to interfere with the mortal champions with rings of flames. Empress Dowager, Gavin Rad, and a bunch of divine artifacts slashed at them. The minions were wiped out after a few hits. Agrama suddenly became extremely pained. The pain and anger that came from the depths of his heart almost destroyed his sanity. Arg! Arg! What have I done? I'm serving my enemy. Holy light! Holy light! It's King Holy Light. Sargeras. Everyone saw that he was opening a large portal, and on the other side of the portal was the outer space of Azeroth. Agrama's eyes, no, to be precise, the dark energy chips in front of his eyes shattered. There was nothing they could do without Duke's presence. Why would a cunning and ambitious guy like Jaden give up at this juncture? There was only one answer. Even though he had stopped the Demon Legion's delivery, Jaden still had many soldiers lying in ambush around the tomb and underground. Moreover, after realizing that something had happened to the Twisted Nether, the demons from all over planet Azeroth received orders to gather at Sargeras' tomb. However, all of his resentment vanished with a signal from the Eridar Wizard Legion in the deepest part of the tomb. The incarnation of Norgannon the Dreamweaver, who had platinum skin and long silver hair, stood out. My poor brother. The devil's illusion actually distorted my vision. This divine sword, which had a huge oblique section on its blade, was once complete. When Sargeras was still a member of the Pantheon, his spiritual sword was called Goslak, Dark Redeemer, the strongest weapon in the universe. With that, Agrama strode towards the portal. However, a flaming silhouette that looked exactly like him remained where it was. Almost all the experts of the Alliance army were attacking the spatial wall with all their might, but everyone realized that they were a step too late. Kacha. Odin slashed hard at the spatial wall. Due to the fact that their strength was on par, there was no rebound, but golden cracks could clearly be seen on the spatial wall. It was only a matter of time before the spatial wall was destroyed. This feeling was too terrifying. There was a moment of dead silence on the battlefield, and there was no distinction between friend and foe. If Duke was still here, he might have been able to destroy their teleportation. However, Old Man Odin on the other side was also very powerful. Jaden's evil claw, which contained a large amount of dark energy, was very powerful. Even if an ordinary expert was wearing 10 tons of steel armor, they would still be as weak as a piece of paper under the erosion of the dark energy. As long as we can drag it out, we can. Don't you know? You're all finished. Ha ha ha. Damn Guardians. Puny mortals. You're all finished. Jaden laughed maniacally as he moved quickly. When Agrama's body completely disappeared from the portal, planet Azeroth was in its greatest crisis. Jaden wanted to charge over, but who knew that the bear monster demigod Ushik and User were carrying the tortoise god Tortola as a meat shield. Odin and Hodier, the two guardians, were also on both sides. Jaden was so frustrated that he could die. He suddenly spread his wings and spat out large clouds of dark energy and poisonous fog. Not only that, he waved his arms, and several magic walls with obvious spatial attributes suddenly appeared in front of the allied forces. Come, Agrama. We need your strength to deal with Sargeras, Amon Thul's soul incarnation said. That was the emissary sent by Agrama's main soul. At the same time, a shadow that looked exactly like a grandma walked down from the void. Destroy. Kill. Destroy. Agrama's fierce and lifelike flame eyes suddenly turned murky, and his gaze fell on his huge two-handed sword. Originally, a brutal battle was going on in every corner of the thousands of square kilometers around the tomb of Sargeras. Understood. But Agrama turned back and looked into the depths of the burning throne. I still have to repay the favor. To make matters worse, a strong sense of unease rose in everyone's hearts. The worst thing was that one of Jaden's ultimate skills, Fracture Singularity, was supposed to be the key to victory. Such a powerful spatial vortex would kill anyone who touched it. Mortals would die instantly if they were hit by it, and even the Guardians wouldn't dare to take it head-on. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying feeling came from the sky above the battlefield. But in the battle between him and Sargeras, Sargeras destroyed Goslak. Since then, Agrama the Avenger had the first part of Goslak, while Sargeras had the other part of Gorobur, Seeker of Darkness. Now, that B***starred Torim didn't do anything. He just retreated to the second line and stared at the sky. How many, Fracture Singularity, did he release? That many lightning interference vortexes in the sky? Oh no! He's going to run. Varian yelled. This was the biggest humiliation that Agrama had suffered in the past 25,000 years. Illidan, who was in front of him, couldn't take it at all. He instinctively raised his hands and blocked in front of him. At this time, a wave of divine power appeared in front of him. It was a round shield of divine power. Countless small Titan runes formed into lines, and the lines weaved into a surface, forming a 2-meter diameter disc. It easily deflected the flames that were coming out. In a situation where both parties had similar levels of mysticism, the various skills were just a battle of energy consumption. In just a few seconds, the clouds turned from black to emerald green, the color of dark powers, very much in the style of the Burning Legion. If anyone had seen Argus before, they would have found that the atmosphere of planet Azeroth had become very similar to that of Argus. The clouds that spanned hundreds of thousands of kilometers began to converge, shrinking to a length and width of tens of thousands of kilometers. Even so, this area and volume was extremely terrifying. What made all the mortals tremble with fear was that this green cloud actually formed a human figure. A few seconds later, from the perspective of outer space, one could see that his figure was that of a demon. A demon so huge that it was beyond the imagination of all mortal creatures in the world. His size was not inferior to any of the stars hanging high in the sky. Even if he was crouching on a large planet like Azeroth, he could still cover more than 1/3 of the sky. Yes. He was the Burning Legion's Demon King, the fallen Titan, Sargeras. As soon as he appeared, he confirmed the rumor that Titans were born on a planet that had never been proven by the creatures of Azeroth. His huge claws could tear the stars apart. Just the shadow of his crimson claws sweeping across the earth could make the sky above the battlefield dark. The battlefield was first covered by the claws and darkened for a moment. Then, the whole world suddenly lit up again. What's going on? Is Sargeras resurrected or not? God! What the hell was that just now? The entire Azeroth Coalition army, be it the soldiers and Titan creations on the battlefield, the city guards hiding in the seemingly sturdy fortress at the rear, and even the trembling people hiding in the underground air raid shelters, were all filled with fear at this moment. Just as the mortals on the battlefield of the Broken Islands were doubting their guesses, they heard a cold snort coming from the sky. The sky darkened again, and every cloud was dyed with a blazing green color. First, a strange crimson color covered the sky. Then, a sparkling green flaming eye opened in the clouds. Sargeras. His face alone was already bigger than the entire Broken Islands. If it weren't for the fact that they were observing from the depths of outer space, the mortals wouldn't even have the chance to see his ominous crimson body and the pair of demonic wings that truly covered the sky. Oh my God! Is this the fallen Titan? The Titans are so huge. The giants we saw in the past weren't even comparable to ants. I thought that the real Titans were just a legend. Such a monster, can we really defeat him? Be it the people or the soldiers, in the face of such a huge and unimaginable existence, it was normal for them to doubt their lives and feel despair. To be able to fight against a 5-story tall hellfire, a 10-story tall demon, and a 20-story tall fell mech, this was already a great achievement that the intelligent beings of Azeroth could barely muster up the courage to do after more than a decade of guidance from the Alliance. One had to know that 36 years ago, the Alliance was just a weak organization that couldn't even deal with a mere million orcs and was almost wiped out. After experiencing 3 battles at the Dark Portal, natural disasters, and ancient gods, the psychological endurance of the Alliance people became a little stronger. However, against such a planetary-level monster, the largest main cannon of the Alliance's fortress was destined to be ineffective. As if to confirm the mortals' fears, Sargeras, who was above the atmosphere, extended his demonic claws towards the Azeroth sky fortress that had been the protection of the mortals since the Legion's return, the city of Condors. Although the sky fortress had started to evacuate as soon as Sargeras appeared, according to Duque's instructions, there were still a few existences that weren't willing to just give in. The fortress quickly opened up a hole, and a bunch of light cannons that had once struck fear into the hearts of countless demons shot out. Vulcan's Wrath. This main cannon of the fortress could easily turn the Legion's largest starship into dust in outer space. However, Sargeras ignored the main cannon's attack. With a light squeeze of his huge claws that could tear the sky and earth apart, the city of Condors was like a crushed egg, turning into nothingness. Countless fragments of the fortress pierced through the sky, broke through the atmosphere, and fell to the ground. This scene seemed to be announcing the arrival of the apocalypse. Chapter 2080. Countless stones contaminated by green evil energy were passing through the void battlefield guarded by the dragons. Tens of thousands, or even hundreds of millions of lights were falling towards Azeroth. The allied heroes were in the tomb of Sargeras, quietly watching this scene through Kill Jaden's 3D projection. They could totally imagine the spectacular, poignant and terrifying scene looking up at the sky on the land of Azeroth. Every single dot of light was no longer a simple fragment of the stronghold. After being infused with Sargeras' supreme evil energy, they would become hellfire giants of all sizes after falling to the ground, and become part of the Burning Legion. In the industrial elven forest, in Lordaeron that was reborn after destruction, in the snow-capped frozen throne of Northrend, in the unchanged Darnassus, in the splendid valley that began to grow green grass after the catastrophe, in the broken beach that burned with the flames of war, in every area of planet Azeroth. When people looked up, they saw Sargeras' huge figure covering half of the sky. In the scene of the descent of the blinding light of destruction, after countless hellfire entered the atmosphere, their own flames fused with the flames produced by the high-speed friction, forming a long tail of flames that seemed slow but was actually falling rapidly from the sky that had been covered by evil and the stars could not be seen. It was like a rain of flames. It was the light of the end, the desperate situation before the world was destroyed. Just as the Burning Legion had destroyed thousands of planets. The end was coming. There was no power in the mortal world that could resist Sargeras. Not to mention the people and soldiers below, even the Alliance command in Naxxramas was filled with pessimism and despair. Oh my God! The Pantheon is already an empty shell. Our heroes are trapped in the tomb of Sargeras and can't move an inch. Even the greatest hero Duque and his commandos have no news. How can we mortals get out of such a desperate situation? Many female heralds were already sobbing, and even the strongest officer couldn't help but tremble. On the battlefield, old Mograine gripped the hilt of his sword so tightly that his nails pierced his palm and oozed blood. Marshal Brigida Bendis's face was ashen. She gripped the corner of her clothes with one hand and touched the armor on her abdomen with the other. She did not say a word. There was a tiny life growing there. The Prince of Stormwind, Anjuan Rin, looked up at the sky with tears streaming down his face. Father. Uncle Duque. Didn't you say that you would end this long war between good and evil in your hands? If you are really superheroes who can perform miracles every single time, then let me witness the birth of another miracle. Let me believe in you till the end. Not many people were able to see that at this moment, there was another strange scene in the void battlefield. It was a huge dragon, an innumerable dragon. If tens of thousands of giant dragons were to fly over any of the Alliance's capitals, the effect they would cause would also be enough to blot out the sky. They spread their wings and silently flew across the void battlefield. They rampaged around, and countless battleships of the army were smashed into pieces. It was as if they had escaped from the orbit of the planet and were being sucked down by the gravity of the planet Azeroth. They were the Pentashade dragons. The legendary creatures that had been guarding the sky of Azeroth for 25,000 years. A beautiful green dragon looked into the distance in the void. That was the direction of Argus. Isra muttered to herself, "Duque, hurry up and finish it. Otherwise, I'll be leaving first." Beside her, a slightly smaller black dragon flew past. Isra heard the voice of Onyxia's soul nagging, "Bastard master. Shameless master. If you want to lie to me, then lie to the end. I'm a great villain, but in order to survive, I didn't hesitate to become your mount. Don't let me be the last one to die. Then why don't I join the Burning Legion earlier?" Although she was complaining, she did not slow down at all as she flew towards her target. It was not just them. In the snow-covered Dragonbone waste of Northrend, the death dragons that had slept for countless years stood up and crawled out of the tomb that was supposed to be their eternal resting place. They raised their heads towards the sky and let out a silent cry. Countless death dragons used the shadow energy to give them the ability to fly and rushed into the sky, surging towards the dragon's rest shrine. Because there was a giant portal on the surface of the planet that led directly to the void battlefield. The third-generation Lich King of this era, once the strongest Holy Knight Uther, was riding on the largest bone dragon. He led the bone dragon army and flew side by side with the live dragons from the dragon's rest shrine. Even if they were facing a super-huge fallen titan that could not be matched by mortal power, he would still lead the charge. Mere dragons, no matter how many there were, could not be a match for a true titan. However, the group of dragons swept past the void battlefield and flew towards the direction of Sargera's head without hesitation. On the other side of the planet's orbit, the huge Izeron fortress moved its orbit for the first time since the day it was built. In the huge and spacious command center, only the wizards who had become spirits were busy operating the fortress. In the commander's seat, Archmage Khadgar, who had a difficult life and should have become the planet's guardian, was smiling. As the core of the magic net and the disciple of the astral wizard Medivh, he had the ability to let his spirit escape to another planet in the universe. But here, he was born an Azeroth man, and he would die an Azeroth ghost. That's right. Even if he was walking towards destruction, there would still be a final warrior in this world. In the tomb of Sargeras, Jaden regretted it. Because after a short pause, all the Guardians, God of the Wilderness, and Alliance heroes once again attacked him. Why? You bunch of idiots. You're all facing despair and destruction. Why don't you beg for mercy? Kneel. All of you kneel. Lord Sargeras and I are magnanimous. As long as you pledge loyalty to the Burning Legion, you can continue to live. Of course, Jaden had thought of protecting himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wanted to run in the first place. However, he, who had never failed in the past 25,000 years, had repeatedly hit a wall in Azeroth in a short 36 years. All kinds of conspiracies had failed, and even his most trusted assistants, the Eridar Gemini, had defected to that hateful Duke Marcus. The continuous failures had caused his mind to become morbid and twisted. He was too eager to see these enemies who had once given him failure and frustration kneel at his feet. It was this obsession that destroyed his last chance of survival. He did not run away immediately, which gave Odin the opportunity to throw a powerful spear of light, which shattered his portal. Chapter 2081. No. You can't do this. Do you think you will have a good ending after destroying Master Sargera's most powerful servant? Kill, Jaden screamed crazily as he waved his claws and cast one powerful evil spell after another. Unfortunately, it was useless. Awu, son, look at your dad's heroic dash. Wolf God Goldring was the first to fearlessly pounce on Kill, Jaden's wings. Bulsh *T. I don't have a father like you. My father is Lang Rin. William didn't back down at all. His anger as a warrior exploded, allowing him to leap 50 meters into the air. When he reached the highest point, he held his two swords upside down and slashed at Kill, Jaden's red wings from top to bottom. Ah! Kill, Jaden roared. Kill, Jaden waved his evil claws, trying to beat up these two annoying guys. Who knew that the powerful Frost Guardian Hodier didn't want to talk to him, and threw a turtle god Tortola at him. The large turtle shell felt like a large slipper, and it smashed onto Kill, Jaden's face, causing his nose to bleed on the spot. Just as the egg was trying to get rid of the big turtle pressing on his face, the bear monster brother Yusak rushed over and hugged his two legs tightly. Yes, he really hugged his legs. Of course, while hugging him, he used his sharp teeth to bite the demon's hooves. Ah! In a panic, Kill, Jaden saw Odin's holy light sword and Tarim's thunder hammer coming at him. He had no choice but to activate an evil shield to strengthen his arms and take the two attacks head-on. The price he paid was that his torso was wide open, and his legs involuntarily knelt under the super-heavy pressure. Off you go. Gavin Rad, who had been with Duke for too long and had learned the Heavenly Dynasty accent, activated the new wind sword and sent the huge crystal dwarf, Magni Bronzebeard, flying like a cannonball towards Kill, Jaden's face, which had just gotten rid of Tortola. The Egg Brother was also a fierce person. Seeing that he couldn't dodge or defend, he bit Magni's shoes. If it were any other hero, they would probably have been chicken-flavored, crunchy, on the spot. Magni was a demigod of the earth. His crystalline body was extremely hard. On the spot, it became tasteless, and the teeth were broken. The egg broke two of its fangs on the spot. Woo woo woo. This was only the beginning, not the end. The Drenii hero Malad swung the Holy Paladin artifact, Hand of Silver, towards Kill, Jaden's neck. The egg was terrified, so it didn't care about anything else. It tilted its head and used one of its whiskers that looked like ding-ding to block the attack. Unexpectedly, one after another came. Saidan Dathrahan, one of the 5 silver saints, who had just carried Merid, waved the Holy Knight artifact, Flame of Justice, which had a special appearance, and struck it toward the sky. The egg's chin was smashed upward, revealing its crimson neck. At this time, Tyrion Fordring's, Ashbringer, made the first slash. Resplendent golden light illuminated the entire hall. Unfortunately, even someone as powerful as the Ashbringer could not cut through Kill, Jaden's neck, which was densely covered in dark energy and greatly strengthened defense. It didn't matter, there was still the next contestant. Turalian waved the Quell Zeram, inherited from Anduin Lothar, the #1 warrior of Azeroth, and slashed with all his strength. The past was like smoke in the vast sky. Back then, the dark portal was opened because of Kill, Jaden's malicious plot. In the Elven Forest, a brave warrior held up the Quell Zeram, and said, "No," to the invaders. 36 years had passed, and the old warrior who once held this peerless artifact had passed away many years ago. The next master of his holy sword, who had inherited his will, stood in front of this schemer and waved the last sword that symbolized resistance. This was more like a cycle of karma. Where there is a cause, there is an effect. Where there is a beginning, there is an end. When Jaden's ugly crimson head flew into the air and spun in the air, the commander of the Burning Legion was still in disbelief. No. Impossible. Humph. Odin directly stabbed the sword into Jaden's bleeding neck, ending the last chance of survival for the criminal leader. If Argus still could not deal with it, perhaps in 10 or 100 years, this evil demon would appear in front of the people of Azeroth again, spreading fear and despair. But, at this moment, a voice was broadcast to all channels and the world through the magic network that connected all of Azeroth. It was a triumphant voice that felt like it could make people gnash their teeth in anger at any time. Yo! My fellow people of Azeroth. If you long for a miracle, then please long for it to the end. If you are willing to worship a hero, then please worship until the end. If you are willing to believe in Duque, then please believe in him until the end. Duke Marcus. When have I disappointed you? Not in the past. Not now. Not in the future. Yes. That's right. I, Duque, am so handsome. As the last word fell, the large virtual images that appeared on all the magic mirrors and even projected on the clouds were all of Duque's face. Perhaps the curve of this face was relatively ordinary, but it still had a bit of a temperament, and it was still a little short of being handsome. However, a confident smiling face of the Alliance commander was undoubtedly the greatest stimulant that could give the soldiers and the people in this desperate situation. From the establishment of the Alliance until now, as long as Duque smiled and said, "No problem," then there would be no problem. This was already an ironclad law. The meaning of victory represented by this smile had long been deeply ingrained in the hearts of all existences. In the image, Duque appeared in the tomb of Sargeras. In front of him, an illusory image of a great demon was struggling in midair. It was the soul of Jaden, one of the main culprits. Dear Jaden, where else do you want to go to resurrect? Look at what I have here. In Duque's hand was a demon statue that did not seem special. It was the size of a palm, but it looked exactly like Jaden. No. Impossible. Isn't this thing with Argus the Terminator? Jaden's soul was terrified. He's a fallen titan. You can't defeat him. Duque shrugged. That's right. Even if I become a true god, I can't be a match for a titan. If the titans of the Pantheon lend me their power, that's another matter. Argus the Terminator was, after all, a flawed titan whose power had been castrated. With the help of the veteran titans led by Amon Thul, destroying him was just a matter of a snap of the fingers. Only a titan could deal with a titan. This sentence seemed to be correct until this moment. Jaden was afraid. He was terrified. Although his boss, President Sargeras, was above this planet, distant water could not put out a nearby fire. If Duque wanted to destroy him, all he had to do was crush the statue that contained his soul core. As if talking to himself, Duque smiled and said, "You don't want to be destroyed? Sure. You can try begging me. Maybe I'll be merciful and accept your surrender like I accepted the Eridar Gemini." Wait, Duque, you can't let him go. The group of guardians was anxious. On the contrary, a group of mortal heroes had malicious expressions on their faces as they waited to watch the show. Jaden knew that it was probably a trap, and he knew that the other party was most likely teasing him. However, his shameless desire to live erupted. The egg's twisted soul cried. I beg you, Master Duque. It sounds quite nice. Unfortunately, my ears aren't very good. It's probably because Argus has too much dust and it's blocking my ears. Duque made a gesture of picking his ears. With that, there was a cracking sound. The dignified commander of the Burning Legion, Kill Jaden, fell into endless darkness. His consciousness was completely annihilated, and he disappeared from this universe forever. Chapter 2082. Kill Jaden was dead. This was a small ending, not the final destination. That huge figure across the sky was still a hurdle that the entire planet couldn't cross. No one knew how to deal with a real Titan. In the sky, every warrior who was ready to fight to the death stopped and looked at Duque, the superhero who had miraculously killed his way into the enemy's lair, pulled out Kill Jaden's soul core, and killed the egg. Everyone wanted to see what other tricks Duque, who was famous for having countless backups, had. As expected, Duke took out another soul sculpture from his bosom. Duque looked up at the sky and waved the thing that was the same as Sargera's. Yo, Sargeras, what do you think? As soon as the provocative words fell, a cluster of huge light cannons fell from space. Unparalleled power, incomparably precise control of power. The entire roof of Sargera's tomb was blasted away and turned into dust, but on Duque's floor, neither the Guardians nor the mortal heroes were hurt. The huge green flaming eye blinked in the sky, and an earth-shattering voice, like a death sentence from above the 9 heavens, spread to the mortal world. Even if you destroy my soul core, I won't die. Because I'm a Titan. Sargeras didn't attack immediately, proving that he was still cautious. Duque curled his lips. But if you destroy it, you'll be hurt too. Yes. If you dare to do that, I'll really destroy planet Azeroth. Well, it sounded like a kidnapper had kidnapped a hostage. In order to prevent the vicious kidnapper surnamed Du from killing the hostage, the negotiator Sargeras finally softened his tone a little. Hee. Duque showed an expression of caring for the mentally retarded. Let me think, you'll probably promise that as long as I return your soul core, you won't step foot on Azeroth for 10,000 years, right? You can even recruit me to be the new commander of the Burning Legion and lead billions of demons? Sargeras was speechless. He was really going to say that. Don't joke around. Don't try to fool me with a lie that even you don't believe. Humph. Mr. Saw's cold snort affected the clouds in the sky, creating a Titan-style storm. Although Duque had secretly ordered all the warships to evacuate the moment he returned, many warships were still consumed by the storm and crashed. Sargeras said coldly, since you have no intention of negotiating, what are you waiting for? Destroy the soul core. I'm in a daze, of course, because... Duque deliberately kept her in suspense. Billions of people around the world held their breaths in the live broadcast as they listened to the words that would decide the fate of the entire planet Azeroth. Who knew that Duque wouldn't have King continue? A mortal who had ascended to godhood, and a near-invincible ultimate existence in the universe, were looking at each other across the distance between heaven and earth. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, half a minute. Finally, someone couldn't hold it in any longer and gasped for air. Sargeras's 2 sky-wide flaming eyes stared at Duque. In the end, he was startled by something else. You lied to me. Pfft. Duque burst out laughing. Yes, he lied to Sargeras. He didn't continue because he wanted to stall for time. Waiting for who? Wasn't it the Pantheon? After 25,000 years, the Pantheon, which once ruled this universe, was stronger than gods, and stood at the top of the universe, finally appeared in front of the mortals again. As a Titan, Sargeras was already huge. However, the Pantheon, which could accommodate Titan's daily life, was even more unimaginably huge. Even through the optical telescope in Iserlund Fortress, one couldn't see the whole Pantheon. The Pantheon was so huge that even Duque felt tongue-tied. This incomparably huge Pantheon, which felt like it could fit into Du's home solar system, was really the first miracle of all time. Just by appearing, the energy shield around the Pantheon destroyed all the burning Legion starships around planet Azeroth. They were like moths drawn to a flame, and were burned to ashes in an instant. Further away, the 100,000-kilometer-tall Pantheon's door suddenly opened. Several huge beings of the same size as Sargeras came out, and stood side by side on the steps of the Pantheon's door with complicated golden patterns. Unlike Sargeras, their bodies were translucent. Obviously, even though they had saved a considerable part of their bodies and essence from Argus' burning throne, they were still not a complete Titan. However, compared to the bitter situation of only having their souls left, they were much better. Supreme Father, Amon, Sir. Life-Giver, Iona. Raging Belayer, Gorgans. Dreamweaver, Norganon. Sculptor, Kaz, Garoth. Avenger, Agrama. Other than these 6 veteran Titans, there was another translucent Titan who was tied up by Kaz, Garoth with chains, kneeling at the side. That was obviously Argus the Terminator, who was supposed to guard Sargeras' home. Amon, Sir spoke, and his loud soul voice pierced through the void of space, resounding in this region, and also spreading to every corner of planet Azeroth. Sargeras, are you still going to come to your senses? Come to my senses? What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Only destruction is eternal. That is the true ultimate happiness. Sargeras was still lying on planet Azeroth. There was an invisible shell on the surface of the planet that was resisting and supporting his planet-level body. Sigh. In the name of the Supreme Father of the Pantheon, I sentence you to eternal imprisonment. With that, Amon, Sir's gaze transcended space and Sargeras' head in front of him, and landed on a spot. Duque knew that Amon, Sir was looking at him. In the name of the Covenant of Eternity, Duque's lips parted slightly. As if they were murmuring, all the Titans of the Pantheon, including Amon, Sir, were chanting the same sentence, in the name of the Covenant of Eternity. That's right, the last step of the covenant that Duque signed with the Pantheon was for Duque to destroy Sargeras' soul core, making him powerless and weak. Otherwise, with Sargeras' domineering combat power, he could successfully overturn the entire Pantheon 25,000 years ago, and he could do it again 25,000 years later. No, Duque. How dare you? In the sky, Sargeras' roar echoed throughout the universe. Hee hee. A moment ago, Duque crushed the egg of an egg. A moment later, Duque crushed the core of Sargeras' soul. This was really a subtle move. Well done. Amon, Sir stroked his beard in satisfaction. At the same time, a gem brighter than a star shot out a beam of light above the Pantheon's door. It was like the light of the birth of all things. In the next instant, Sargeras' planet-level body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 2083. No. No. No, 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 Chairman Sam roared, struggled, and resisted. He hammered planet Azeroth hard. But although the planet's protection circle was weak, it still had it. For 25,000 years, he couldn't do anything to this circle. Even when the circle's power was less than 20%, it still resisted Chairman Sam's final attack. No. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Without the soul core, the soul was a remnant soul that would constantly weaken. Even someone as strong as Chairman Sam was still rapidly weakening under the Pantheon's light of punishment. He was already very clear about his fate. Without the soul core, it was impossible for him to fight against the Pantheon that had gathered all the Titans' power. The only last thing he could do was to perish together with Azeroth. If he couldn't get this planet that he had been spying on for 25,000 years, other existences shouldn't even think about getting it. Clamping the circle on the planet's outer shell, Sargeras raised his Titan artifact sword high. At this moment, Duque's shadow suddenly appeared above the void battlefield. The size of the shadow was not the least bit inferior to Sargera's. Duque let out an earth-shattering yell. "Azeroth, what are you still worried about? Give me the power, or we'll all be buried with Sargeras." The entire planet suddenly trembled violently. It was truly an earthquake in the truest sense of the word. That was the Star Soul's instinct to protect itself. It was also her last hesitation. Finally, it seemed to let out a sigh. The whole planet began to change. On the continent, the ocean, the sky, every life, every existence, whether it was a living thing or a seemingly inorganic dead thing, this time, not only the four elements, but all existences opened their souls to the huge Duque shadow in the void. Thousands. Hundreds of millions. Billions of billions. Countless existences poured their unknown mysterious energy into the Duque avatar in the sky. In the blink of an eye, Duque's huge avatar became solid. This was like a new titan named Duke Marcus appearing in the void. On the Pantheon side, Amon Sur was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly. He finally knew how the cunning mortal Duque had guaranteed the eternal covenant between the Azeroth creatures and the Pantheon. On the other side, Duque's materialized incarnation held the 20,000-kilometer-long Atish in his left hand and the 10,000-kilometer-long Song of Light and Shadow in his right hand. F*CKU, Sargeras. Clang! That was a parry in the nick of time. Atish, which looked weak and like wood, had actually used its supreme spatial power to forcibly parry Shaman's sword that was aimed at Azeroth. In the next moment, Song of Light and Shadow stabbed into Sargeras's chest while he was still in a daze. In the end, the fallen titan had fallen under the sword of a mortal. No, it should be said that a hero who had once been immortal. No! No! No, 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 Sargeras shouted, flailing and struggling. He tried to use his dark powers to resist. But the radiant holy sword in his chest was the cruelest shackle. Every time he used some power, there would be a flash of golden light, and his power would be scattered again. Under the gaze of billions of creatures in the mortal world, the existence of despair that covered the entire planet rapidly shrank, captured by the holy light of the Pantheon, unable to resist. As it shrank, it flew towards the Pantheon. At that moment, an interstellar portal opened behind Duque. Led by Queen Sylvia and Tyrant, the harem ladies filed out and stood behind Duque. Apart from them, there was also Illidan. Duque smiled at everyone. "I have some work to do, so I need to go to the Pantheon." "It's fine, I'll be back soon." All the elites nodded with the same excitement. At that moment, Tyrant realized that Illidan was actually following Duque. She could not help but gasp. "Illidan, you," the wind-like Illidan curled his lips. "I've been waiting for this day ever since the moment I decided to rely on Sargeras for the burning invasion 10,000 years ago. I've said that I would protect you and the Night Elves in my own way. Now, I'm just doing what I want to do." Tyrant wanted to say something, but after a long while, she could not utter a single word to dissuade him. "You bastard, you've been acting on your own since you were young." Illidan did not care at all. It was clear that he was saying, "I am me, a different great man." When Illidan was about to leave, a slender figure suddenly appeared beside him, Maiev Shadowsong. "What, do you want?" Illidan had a natural hostility towards this paranoid woman who had imprisoned and tortured him for 10,000 years. I was wrong." Maiev knelt on one knee and bowed deeply to Illidan. The truth was out. Illidan was a great man worthy of being called a great hero of the Night Elves. This was tantamount to Maiev hating Illidan for 10,000 years being a huge mistake. Maiev was ashamed. If it was the young Illidan, he would probably be angry and punish Maiev severely. But now, he had already seen through everything. I forgive you. You, really forgive me?" 2 streams of tears flowed down Maev's face from under her mask. "Yes. I forgive you. From the first day I made this decision, I did not ask for the understanding of any of my brethren. To be able to obtain the understanding of the people I love and hate at the very end, I have no regrets," Illidan said solemnly. You have to take care," Tyrant finally said. "Yes, I will." Maev seemed to have realized what Illidan wanted to do. "I'll go with you. This is what I'm best at." Illidan was stunned for a long time. In the end, he accepted the woman who had been with him for the second longest time, the woman he had hated so much, to stand behind him. Duque smiled and led the 2 elves through the door. Stepping into the Pantheon temple and seeing Sargeras, who had shrunk to the size of a human, Illidan happily rushed up and kicked Sargeras in the face. "Sargeras, you finally have a day like this. Don't worry. I will guard you well for eternity." Illidan laughed heartily. Maev said coldly, "And me?" "Yes." One of the terms of the agreement between Duque and the Pantheon temple was proposed by Illidan. Once Duque captured Sargeras, he would become at least one of the prison guards and guard Sargeras for eternity. Duque looked at One Egg and Maev. For some reason, he felt that the 2 of them were a good match. After a few glances, Duque stopped looking. Everything was a choice of fate. On the other side, Amon, Thul and a group of titans were sitting on their thrones. Duque noticed that there were 2 more giant chairs in the Pantheon temple. They were obviously not Sargeras. As a traitor, he did not deserve to have a throne. "This is, You're just a mortal who ascended to godhood. You took advantage of Azeroth's crisis to get your hands on the Titan God's power. What are you still pretending for?" Dreamweaver Noganon laughed. The thick-skinned Duque finally laughed awkwardly. The Pantheon temple was too strong. Although he wanted to believe in the Pantheon temple's integrity. But integrity couldn't be brought along in life and taken away in death. What if one day there was another traitor in the Pantheon temple? Power was, of course, the safest thing to do was to control it in one's own hands. In fact, Sargeras' last strike would at most severely injure Azeroth. It would not have blown Azeroth up. Unfortunately, no Titan knew. And no one reacted as quickly as Duque, who was prepared. Azeroth had blocked Duque's authority for so many years. In the end, Duque succeeded. It could be said to be a lie, but it could also be said to be a coincidence. Amon, Sir said, "As long as you can endure the loneliness and find a suitable planet to nurture your body, 10,000 years later, you will be able to be like us at our peak, possessing an invincible body that can dominate the entire universe." TSK, invincible? Who was the one who was beaten like a dog back then? Although he was complaining in his heart, Duque still had to admit that only Titans could take care of Titans. With that power and size, anyone who wasn't a Titan wouldn't be able to deal with a Titan. However, Duque shook his head. "No need. I am already very grateful that you did not ask me to give up this Titan power." Amon, Sir laughed bitterly. "You are really cautious. Maybe you, forget it. Anyway, as long as the Pantheon temple is not destroyed. The door of the Pantheon temple will always be open to you and Azeroth. We are all on the same side, so you don't have to worry about whether we will fulfill the alliance." Iona smiled. "That's it. We also have to find a suitable planet in the universe to nurture our bodies again. You know how to contact us if anything happens." "I know." After stealing the Titan power, Duque could naturally sense the port that the Pantheon temple had opened for him. Even if it was billions of light-years away, he could still clearly sense it. Carving this caused growth. Azeroth's vitality is greatly damaged now. The task of protecting her will be handed over to you. Of course, from this moment on, all the guardians on it are your subordinates. You can do whatever you want. Thank you. Agrama the Avenger, don't worry about the Burning Legion. I will quickly organize a new army to fight against them. That is my original duty. Duque nodded. The Pantheon Temple left just like that, satisfied. Azeroth was safe, and the long suffering had come to an end. The Titan creations, the god of the wilderness, and the various races of Azeroth spent several months before they were able to eliminate the demons that were scattered all over the world. The organized demon army was gone, and the scattered demons would probably take a long time to clean up. December 25th, year 36 of the Dark Portal. The Alliance finally announced the end of the war. Planet Azeroth finally welcomed true peace. Victory! Long live the Alliance! Long live Azeroth! Long live the god King Duke Marcus! Billions of creatures cheered, and the soldiers fired cannons into the sky. People threw their hats high into the sky. Outside every city, a large number of griffins, hippogriffs, wyverns, giant dragons, wagri, and a large number of flying battleships flew around the city. Everyone sang and danced, and it was a joyous occasion. The passionate young girl blew kisses to every victorious soldier. She kissed those who met her eyes. Then, in the past month, the 3 Grim Reapers, led by Durex, were all banned. The Alliance announced that they would hold 100 consecutive days of celebration. To celebrate the victory against the Burning Legion. From now on, every year, October 16th would be Saint Duque's Day. Every year, December 25th would be the anniversary of the victory against the Burning Legion. Time passed very quickly in the celebration. In the blink of an eye, it was January 1st, year 38 of the Dark Portal. In the Karazhan Shrine, the divine consort Wuxia rushed in. With a wave of her hand, the magical barrier of spatial distortion disappeared. She rushed into the study of the shrine. Duque, Wuxia fumed as she looked at the large poster on the wall. On it was written, "I don't want to go to work." Hey! Who knows where that bastard Duque went? With great difficulty, Wuxia caught Duque's maid, Vanessa. This maid, who had followed Duque since she was young, was a little shy, and her face was red. Wuxia immediately smelled a familiar scent. That bastard Duque also made a move on you? Vanessa did not dare to hide it. She lowered her head and said, "Yes, I seduced Master." "TSK, that guy. Forget it, I can't care about him." "Where is that guy?" "I can't say." "What if Master hates me?" Vanessa had followed Duque for more than 30 years before she finally succeeded. She would rather offend Wuxia than betray Duque. Wuxia directly teleported away. When she appeared in Duque's bedroom, she saw the 3 Windrunner sisters lying on the floor. It seemed that they had been beaten up badly last night. At this time, Wuxia realized that Jaina had also come. "Sister Wuxia, you're looking for Duque?" "Yes." "You too?" "Humph." Jaina pouted her rosy little mouth angrily. "Every year, we decide which spells can be embedded in the weave, and we need the approval of the Master of the Weave. Where did he go again?" Wuxia held her forehead with a headache. "What should I do? That guy can be anywhere in this world." At this time, Jaina suddenly revealed a naughty smile. Hee. I've foreseen this and secretly installed a surveillance device in the weave. As long as I keep an eye on a few targets, it'll be easy to catch that pervert." Jaina walked in front of a magic mirror in Duque's bedroom and typed in a string of things. There was an image immediately. "Is it a real-time image?" Sometimes it's a recording." Soon, the first recording appeared. It was obviously in one of the Scarlet Crusade's holy halls. In the image, Sally Whitemane was wearing a red robe with a high slit and holding a staff. At first glance, there seemed to be nothing wrong, but upon closer inspection, one could see that Sally was secretly rubbing her beautiful pair of long, white legs. Revive. My brave warrior. In the image, a square piece of white cloth suddenly moved where Du Muk's thighs split. It was as if a zombie had come back to life, and something was slowly rising. Jaina's eyes were quick, and she quickly changed the image. This is obviously a recording. The next image was of a dungeon. A tall female elf was tied up tightly by some kind of tortoise shell. She cried and begged for Vashti's mercy. This time, it was Alicia's turn. Ever since Vashti caught her former master, Queen Azhara, who was hiding in the dark and plotting all kinds of subversive activities, she had changed the queen's skin color from the bluish-green unique to the high elves to white. Then Duque would occasionally go to the dungeon to interrogate the queen and get her to answer questions. The next image was of the adoptive mother and daughter, Tyrande and Chandris, who were hugging each other and sleeping. Next to them was the holy light duo, Hoof and Kalia. Looking at the traces, it was obvious that the murderer with the surname Du had already escaped. The last image was of a snowflake in the mirror. Jaina knew. Damn, that bastard is in the Wyrmrest Holy Hall. This is going to be difficult. At the highest point of the Wyrmrest Holy Hall, a new villa had been built on the once incomparably spacious top floor. This had become the holy land for all kinds of female dragons to challenge the Lord of Wyrmrest. The blue dragon Taragosa, who was supposed to die in the cataclysm and whose soul had merged with the artifact staff, was the first to attack Duque. Who knew that she would be attacked instead? Duque's 48 forms of Hand of God only used 6 moves to defeat Taragosa. Onyxia was the second to be defeated. Her defeat was due to Duque's familiarity with her dragon's cave. After a few rounds of wild attacks on her weak points, the black dragon princess fell to the ground. Isra was the second to fall. Ever since Duque had accidentally entered a 10G action movie, Isra had never been strong. If he accidentally cooperated, he would be finished. The only one who could truly fight Duque was the head of the 5-color dragon kings, Alexstrasza. Duque caught the human-shaped dragon that was trying to escape. Even the red dragon queen, who was using all 4 legs, could not escape from his claws. Duque grabbed the 2 dragon horns and attacked continuously with the godly sword 99-99 combo. Alexstrasza could not defend herself and roared in anger. Hee hee. I shouldn't have helped you back then, you little bastard. Yo. If I hadn't saved you back then, maybe a new type of dragon would have appeared. Duque was shameless. I regret it so much. I should have killed you, you scourge. Alexstrasza roared and began to struggle at the same time. Unfortunately, it was useless. Ever since Duque had stolen the Titan's divine power, she was at a disadvantage in terms of strength. No matter if Duque wanted to break her armor or crush her, she could not resist. Perhaps this was what it meant to be shy and happy. After taking down 4 dragons in one go, Duque felt refreshed. He teleported back to a secret room in Karazhan. The Eridar twins, who had been waiting for a while, helped Duque take a bath. At the same time, after tidying up his appearance, Duque prepared to go for his last date of the night. It was a beautiful human woman with a very Japanese charm. She spun around in front of Duque, showing off her graceful body. How is it? Just like how you imagined Sensei Mitsuru to be. Duque rested his chin on his hand. Not bad. After a battle, she gave Duque this evaluation. Well, it hurts too much. I wonder, if Sargeras stabbed me with a sword, would it hurt as much? Duque said, trust me, you'll be crippled even if you don't die. That day, Duque was still caught by Jaina. Even though the system genie was working at full capacity to help him with official business, he was still busy for a full 12 hours. I protest. I complain. I want human rights. I want an 8-hour work day. Bullshit, you're not even human. You Titan, if you have the ability to torment your sisters every day, don't you have time to work? Queen Sylvie grabbed Duque's ear. She had completely lost the arrogance and reluctance she had during the melee last night. The divine light in Duque's eyes transcended space and fell on every part of Karazhan, which had become a temple. The girls of the Night faction were practicing archery. Kalia, Sally, and Imriel, who believed in the Holy Light, were discussing how to write a new Holy Light doctrine. Onyxia was instigating more little female dragons to play Dragon Cave exploration with Duque. On the surface, the women in the harem all had their own things to do, but in fact, Duque knew that everyone was a little bored and looking for something to do to pass the time. The Burning Legion was like a mountain that had been pressing on their chest for decades. Once this mountain disappeared, they suddenly became empty again without a goal and a new direction to work towards. Duque gathered the women. Everyone, I have an important announcement. I'm going to take everyone to the world where I'm from. It's a world that's completely different from Azeroth. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The supreme ruler of Azeroth, a true god, and Duque, who also had half of the Titan's power, announced that he was going on a long journey. This caused the entire alliance to explode. There were all kinds of emotions in the mortal world. Some were secretly happy, some were worried, some were distressed, and some were in pain. No one's opinion could affect Duque's decision. On the day of his departure, the entire alliance, the wilderness gods, and the Titan guardians had all arrived. William stared at Duque for a long time. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Finally, he said, "Are you really willing? Everything that you've created is here. In this world, you're supreme." Willing? Of course not. Even though I have the Titan's power, I've always wanted to have the strongest power, the best girls, the most money, and the most power since I was young. Then, maybe I'm afraid I'll be bored. I've been flirting with girls all day, and I've almost used up all the new ideas in my mind. If I stay here any longer, I'm afraid I'll be too bored and cause a second cataclysm in the future, causing a flood to destroy the world. Then, I'll let my former allies attack me or something. Duque's words scared Prince Anduin, who was beside him. Uncle Duque, don't scare me. You'll always be a great hero in my heart. Anduin's eyes were full of admiration. Duque shrugged his shoulders disapprovingly. Hero? No, I'm actually just an ordinary person. My priority is to protect myself and hope that my friends and family are safe. On this basis, I don't mind saving the world or something along the way. At the side, the 5 silver sages were a little lost in thought. There was no such thing as generosity. Instead, it was the truth that mattered. Anduin was a little confused. I don't care. I'll keep your Duke's mansion for you. William rolled his eyes. Duke's mansion? Duque laughed. That's right. In my hometown, the pronunciation of Duque is Duke. In the common language, it means Duke. One day Duque, the first Duke. Duque left, just like that, leaving not a single cloud behind. Perhaps what was left for Azeroth was a 1,000-year foundation and a perfect legend. Feeling dizzy, Duque felt that something was wrong. He opened his eyes and saw Alexstrasza and Aurelia, who had just thrown up Duque's godly sword. Then, he saw his ladies, who were all dressed up in full Azeroth style. Wait. Are you planning to go out like this? This is my hometown, Earth. Duque was shocked. Tyron turned around gracefully and moved her long ears provocatively. Did you forget that today is China Joy? We're going to compete to see who can win the cosplay competition. F***CK, end of book. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.